Hey everybody on YouTube, this is JGSF 1987. I'm a writer and blogger, and to see my latest posts, go to my blog at jgsf1987.com. Yeah, there's a couple things I need to say. First of all, this whole Russia thing, Russia this, Russia that, Russia. Can the DNC not get it? Okay, what is it that the DNC is not getting through its thick head? I'm telling you, the DNC is basically being run by morons. I mean, this is what their line is. Like, I don't know. That's the DNC for you. So, their latest thing with the whole Russia this, Russia hack this, Russia. No. I can point you to an article on The Independent that said that this is complete bullshit. I will find that article. As a matter of fact, it was put in an article actually by Kyle Kalinske in for Secular Talk. So there's that. But yeah, this whole thing with Russia is like, no. If there was hacking involved, I don't think it was from the Russian government. And even if it was, you can't prove it. The Russians have a very long history of basically not leaving a paper trail, or in this case, an electronic footprint. You can never figure them out. That's the point. You can go back 50, 60 years. It's the same thing over and over and over again. You cannot beat their illegals program. It's not that simple. Just in order to find them. Finding them is more luck than skill at this point. So there's that. Now, I know there's been some talkers, especially here on the left, many of them, that are not in favor of going to war with North Korea and such, are saying that there is no military option. There's no military solution to the standoff on the Korean Peninsula. I'm going to have to call them out on that. It's saying that this can only be handled diplomatically. No. At this point, it cannot be handled It cannot be handled diplomatically. There is no diplomatic solution to this. The only way you're going to basically get rid of the Kim regime at this point, or get rid of the nuclear threat that the Kim regime poses, is to get rid of the Kim regime itself. You need to overthrow them, and you're going to need to do it by force. I'm with the president on this. There is no diplomatic solution to this. There has not been one for nearly 70 years. I mean, if the Korean War is a precedent for this, then if North Korea is very serious about having a treaty signed for ending the, for so-called ending the war and such, okay, first get rid of your nuclear program. It was a mistake on our part, especially through the Clinton administration, to give them some light water reactors. We knew, even from the very beginning, that they were going to do this. So none of this should be a massive surprise. As isolated as they are the most dangerous regime right now. They're much more dangerous than Putin's Russia is. I'm not saying that Vladimir Putin is not a severe threat where you have to basically contain Russia. You don't. Look, the Russians just by the sheer size of their country, border practically everything. They go from about from west to going starting west and going eastward. It goes from the Baltic all the way out to the Pacific, the Baltic Sea to the Pacific Ocean, and at the very northern edge of it, it borders the Arctic Ocean with some other aquatic, seas as well, like inland seas. But you gotta understand the sheer geography of Russia itself. It borders practically everything. So no, they're not going. You can't contain them. Is the bottom line. They don't pose a massive threat to everybody. The Russian threat is the one threat historically that's been so overblown. They're not the problem. They're part of the solution. You don't believe me? Go read some Russian history. I'm very serious about this. I studied this. So I know a little bit about it. What's going on for them is their military posture is not around attacking anybody. No, it's structured toward their own national defense. They're not the enemy. They're a natural ally they're one of our natural allies, actually. Pretty much anything that we have to deal with, guess what? I've said this before in previous videos. I'll say it again. They have to deal with it. They really have to deal with it because it's literally, it's either figuratively on their back porch or their side porch, practically in their back doorstep. Anyway, so there's that. Now, what I will say, though, is that this has been going on. This has been going on long enough to the point where it's like, okay, the DNC should basically quit. Now, that's what the whole thing with Russia itself, it's the DNC basically pushing around Hillary's temper tantrum about the fact that she was not elected, that she lost to Trump, and that, oh, well, she's the only one who's actually legitimate and such. The only person that has the legitimate right to be in there and no one else is Hillary. Bullshit. Hillary is not entitled to the presidency, and that's the DNC's line. Other than that, they're like this. That's the DNC for you. They have nothing. I'm not saying that the Republicans are any better. They're not. I'll put it this way. The Republican Party has historically, at least as of recently, has been the party that wants power, but then doesn't know what it wants to do once it has it. So they make it up as they go along, practically. And their message has not changed for getting close to about 4 decades. So we're going to have to, live through 2 years of them trying to force austerity. It's not going to work. Based off of what I've been saying, people are just... The Trump presidency, and this is the beauty of it, just look at the sheer reactivation, basically, or reignition of the American civic religion, practically, that had been absent for almost for nearly 50 years. That's what happened. Had Hillary been in there, this would not have happened. But since Trump is in there, It's happening. Basically, what it is right now is that it's that these people, especially those that are, they're basically looking at basically anybody who's not a Clinton loyalist is basically being an enemy of the state, basically, is what it is. Trump is not the enemy of the state. I mean, Trump's an idiot. Now, do some of the people that he's affiliated with have more or less some questionable ties with, business ties with the Russians? Sure. Some do. Some don't. But to say that Trump is a Russian puppet, which has been the line, basically, the new line that's been coming out of the, or no, that's been a line that's been coming out of the media establishment, quote unquote, for the Clintons, actually, via the Clinton. Well, the Clintonian line via the mainstream press has been that Trump is a Russian puppet. Actually, that's bullshit. Trump is no Russian puppet. Let me put it to you very simply. If he was a Russian puppet, then explain to me how he has not, how his Treasury Secretary or or how I like to put it, his Finance Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, basically refused to sign off on a waiver for ExxonMobil to get around the sanctions, so that way they could do oil drilling and business or basically to complete their oil venture with the Russian government. That hasn't happened. Trump has refused. Trump via Mnuchin has refused to let that even happen. That's number one. Number two, the strike in Syria. That was more of to a domestic audience than it was to a foreign audience. That was to get the people that kept saying that he was a puppet to finally shut the hell up. That's why he did that. But the message was twofold. One, it was to tell these voices basically saying that he's illegitimate and that the only person who has the legitimate entitlement to the presidency is the very lady that he beat, Hillary Clinton. Now they've shut up about it to an extent. But the fact of the matter is that while they're busy, doing that, they're not exactly explaining the fact that they're not exactly doing a good job of informing everybody about what damage that Trump is trying to do. But at this point, people don't feel. But at this point, they can't. What's going on is that they're also panicking because they can't compete with news sources of news and such that are going up all across the internet, and they can't keep up with it, and they're losing credibility. They don't like that. They see it as a threat, and that's why they're doing what they're doing in many cases. So that's why I'm going to say it's a bunch of horseshit. It's the DNC talking. Basically, they are more or less continuing Hillary's temper tantrum. And they need to, basically, they're not addressing the elephant in the room that that's going on their end, which is that basically Bernie put it very simply, and he's right. It wasn't so much that Trump won, it's that the Democrats lost. The Democrats completely blew the election, and now they want a redo of it. It doesn't work like that. You have to wait until 2020, which is in about 3 years. I'm telling you, it's like it's Moron Mountain in there. Not to mention, I also saw something in the Washington Post actually saying that, and I'm pretty sure many of you have seen this too, and so it's not exactly, this isn't exactly news to you, that apparently okay, so here's the thing, that Trump is actually more popular, and the Republicans currently are more popular than Democrats are. Don't be too surprised about this. Think about what happened when Obama first became president. The Republicans were so badly disfavored. So there's that. Here's the thing, though, is that current polls right now show that people who think that Trump is in touch with them, out of touch, it's a 30-point, it's more or less a 20-point gap between those in the way of people saying that Trump is out of touch with them, is out of touch with them. That's 58 who say that he's out of touch to 38 who say that he's in touch. Okay, that should not come as a massive surprise. Okay, so what about the Republican Party? Okay, it's a 30-point gap in which people say that the Republicans are out of touch with them, to 32% that say that they are. Okay, now hold the phone. What is it with the Democrats? It's a nearly 40-point gap saying that the Democrats are out of touch with them than those who say that they are. It is literally 67 to 28%. 67% to 28%. Think about that. That is a 39-point margin. That's almost 40 points. That's how big of a hole the DNC is at the moment, and they're digging it deeper and deeper and deeper by basically sidelining everybody. They're not, a lot of this is them trying to sweep the fact that there's the exposed corruption within their ranks was exposed. And so they're trying to sweep it under the rug, and they're trying to sweep Hillary's loss under the rug, saying that, oh, well, Trump's not legitimate. The only legitimately entitled right to be president is Hillary's, which is, like I said before, it's complete horseshit. Anyway, I'm going to kill it here. This is about 20 minutes long, so yeah, so check out my blog. If you like what you see here, subscribe, and thanks for watching, and kill it here. Anyway, this is JJ Sup 1987, and I am out of here.